Hi, welcome back to my 5-part workplace violence prevention video series, which I've created to help businesses, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies protect your staff, your organization's reputation, and your bottom line by preventing workplace violence. In today's video, the third in our series, we'll look at how to prevent workplace violence incidents from invitees. Those are patients, customers, clients, and vendors who will work with your staff on your premises. We delve into how some simple changes to interior and exterior layouts and to your internal communications can really help prevent workplace violence from those sources. Workplace violence doesn't have to happen to your organization. In fact, workplace violence is preventable, which means that your employees do not have to be among the 2 million Americans each year who report being a victim of workplace violence. And your organization does not need to suffer through the higher turnover and absenteeism rates, lower employee morale, lower productivity, damage to public reputation, and lost sales and profit experienced by businesses that have had episodes of workplace violence. In the first video in this series, we looked at the different sources of workplace violence, including coworkers and business invitees like clients, patients, vendors, and also from members of the public and even family members and ex-partners of staff. We looked at who's at risk from workplace violence, how it can strike at your place of business as well as out in the community, and why women, medical professionals, legal professionals, and even government employees are at a high risk for workplace violence. And finally, we covered the different approaches to preventing workplace violence, what does work and what does not work. In the second video, we covered how to prevent employee and coworker related violence by developing and implementing an effective internal complaint and investigation system that inspires confidence in your employees that you are hearing their complaints and taking action. In the upcoming videos, we'll cover how training in situational awareness and de-escalation techniques can help protect your staff when they are out working in the community as well as at your workplace, and what your staff can do to protect themselves if situations escalate into a violent attack through taking away an attacker's advantage and quickly stopping an attack. Hi, I'm Mike Corwin. I spent over 30 years conducting civil and criminal litigation investigations in Los Angeles, California, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. I conducted numerous investigations of workplace violence, sadly including several homicides. For over 10 years, I've taught my approach to workplace violence prevention to hundreds of people working for private businesses, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies, including to the staff of a United States Senator. And if you'd like to learn more about workplace violence prevention and how you can get started today keeping your business and staff safer, check out my free workplace violence prevention checklist. There's a link to download it in the description below. And if you missed any of the prior videos, you can find a link to those videos in the description below as well. Now, let's dig in. When it comes to workplace violence from invitees, the old notions that you need to harden target, increase security by controlling access to your place of business go out the window. And there's a simple reason for that, because you invited them to come to your business. That's why they're called invitees. They can be clients, customers, patients, vendors, and in the case of an attorney who's doing depositions at your location, they can be witnesses, they can be opposing parties and opposing counsel. All of those people are people you invited into your business. So hardening targets just doesn't work. So here's what you can do. The first thing to understand is that your physical layout, both internally and externally at your location, can affect that risk to you. And here's why. Say that you have a medical practice and you're seeing a patient within an exam room. And when you come into the exam room, the patient is situated in such a way as to where the patient is between you and the door. Now, I'll give you another example. I trained the pretrial court services for a district court, and their job was to meet with people who have been charged but not yet convicted of felony criminal charges, to meet with them one-on-one in their office. Now, these people may not necessarily be dangerous, or they may be, and several of them have mental health issues. When I first started working with the pretrial services division, I noticed that they were keeping their desks at the far end so that they could face the door when somebody walked in. But here's the problem. Your person who's been charged with the felony is between you and the door. So I showed them that a better way was to turn the desk sideways. They could still see anyone walking into the door, but as they had the person who they're meeting with sit in front of them at their desk, they now had a clear path to get to the doorway if need be. So your physical layout does matter. Number one, in addition to not allowing somebody to get between you and an exit, you also want to rely on the buddy system. And what I mean by that is, let's say you just finished, you're taking a break during a deposition in your office, and you're a plaintiff's lawyer and you're representing somebody who is sexually abused by the defendant, and the defendant is deciding they need to go on a bathroom break. When the defendant gets up, don't just let the defendant walk away and you guys sit and have your discussion or you talk with opposing counsel. Everybody should take a break and go on out as well, because that reduces the risk of him being able to come back and having you contained in a place where you cannot defend yourself. By the buddy system also is there's strength in numbers. If you need to take that defendant down the hall to show them where the bathroom is, have two people do it. You don't need to make it like it's security that's escorting him. You can just have a couple people say, hey, I got to head down that way. I'll take you down there. And they can both walk down there. Now, in addition to that, you have to think about what's called a vantage point. And a vantage point is what gives you the ability to see where things are unfolding. The better your vantage point and the better your coworkers can see you, let's say from their own offices, the more safety you have, because they can then respond, or you can respond to the situation going on with them. And then in addition to that, everybody should know where their exits are. Now, we'll cover that a little bit more in situational awareness training. But for the moment, understand that everybody should know where exits are and the fastest routes to get to them. Now, in addition to interior layout, you can have problems with somebody as you are walking into the office from, let's say, your parking lot or your parking garage. Obstructions can create opportunities for somebody to hide, or in the legal term, lay in wait for you. So you want to minimize those risks. Sometimes that means cutting back shrubbery. Sometimes that means making it so somebody can't park right next to a column, because if you've got a car parked next to a column, you've got a great place to hide for that other person. So those types of things can help out, as can in the front office where your reception desk is. When somebody first comes into the reception desk, who's at that desk should have a way out in case somebody gets violent and heads towards them. If they're stuck and required to go past that person in order to get to safety, that's a big problem and that needs to be addressed. Now, there's a couple other things in terms of communication that I think will be really helpful. Number one is the buddy system, again, comes into play. If you've got somebody who's agitated and getting aggressive with your front desk staff, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can have something like a wireless doorbell that then is connected to a light or a buzzer in the back office area, where the person at the front desk can press it once to say, hey, I've got a problem, can somebody come up? Or press it multiple times in rapid succession that says, call 911. That's an easy way to alert people. You can also have an intercom or phone system where you use a code word. Now, I'm not talking about Afghanistan, Bananistan from Hot Rocks. I'm talking about a word that sounds like it belongs in the conversation, but is not something that you would normally lead with. And you could pick up the phone, call someone and say, hey, is Larry on his 2-week vacation now? And that's the warning that the very next thing when the person says, hey, I'm discussing with somebody here in the front and they haven't been paid and they're really, really pissed about it, that means you need to come up to them. The other thing that I think is really important, let's say it is a vendor and they're really pissed off because they haven't been paid and they need that money and they come storming in. Your staff should be able to say to them, I hear what you're saying. I'm not the right person I think that you need to address this with, but let's put our heads together and see if we can figure out who that is, and I'll go ahead and get them. That's basically saying I'm going to bring up a second person, which will help to kind of calm the situation and let them know that there's going to be multiple people that they're now going to be dealing with. So being calmer is a better concept. And when they pick up the phone and they call the other person, they can say, I've got Mr. So-and-so here, and he's pretty pissed off about the fact that he hasn't been paid. And I'm not sure exactly who we should talk to about this, but maybe you can come up front and help us. That again shows the buddy system in play. Now, the last thing that I'll say is there are many times when your vantage point, either internally or externally, are not great. And you can use those concave mirrors. Sometimes you'll see them in parking garages. Sometimes you'll see them in offices, but they can be used to show when somebody's at the front desk, let's say, and if your front desk person is on break, that there's still a way to see that somebody is standing at the front desk. The same can be done with a hallway where a mirror can reflect down the hallway. So if somebody's hanging out in that hallway and they're waiting on someone maybe for bad reasons, that you can see that they're there. And if you'd like to learn more about workplace violence prevention and to get started today keeping your business and your staff safer, check out my free workplace violence prevention checklist. It's chock full of information for you. There's a link to download it in the description below. And if you've missed any of the prior videos in this video series on workplace violence, you can also find a link to those in the description below.